My mom accidentally gave my daughter's 21st birthday party to my sister's baby shower. Same day, same place. Your sister's baby is more important, she said. My daughter cried for hours. I didn't scream. I calmly called the venue owner, my former boss, and said, I need a favor. He replied, your mother just called asking to confirm. What do you want me to do? I smiled and said, the first thing I saw when I walked into the venue was the banner. Not the Happy 21st, Ella banner I ordered. A giant pastel one that said, hello, baby, with little paper storks taped to the edges. My daughter stood beside me in the entryway, holding a small gift bag like she didn't know what to do with her hands anymore. She had on the navy dress we picked together. She looked so grown up it made my chest ache. And then she looked at the banner again. Her face did that thing where the muscles freeze first, like her brain was trying to catch up, and then the hurt hits a half second later. The room was already set. Pink table runners. A diaper cake in the corner. A stack of games printed on cardstock. Guess the baby food. Don't say baby. All of it. This wasn't my daughter's birthday party. This was my sister's baby shower. Same day, same place, same room. My mom came out from the back like a stage manager. She wore her family host smile, the one she used at church and funerals and any event where she wanted witnesses. Oh good, she said, clapping her hands once. You're here. I stared at her. I waited for her to laugh. For her to say it was a prank. For Ella to hear everyone yell surprise. And for the real decorations to come out. But Mom just looked past me toward Ella and said, way too casual. Sweetie, we're going to do your thing later. Ella blinked. My thing. My sister Kendra waddled in behind her, one hand on her belly like she was in a photo shoot. She was 33 and pregnant with her third. She didn't look surprised at all. She looked pleased. Kendra needed the room, Mom said, like she was explaining why she used the last clean towel. The baby shower's bigger. More people are coming. Ella's voice came out small. But, you said this was my party. Mom's smile tightened. Ella, you're 21. You'll be fine. I felt my hands start to shake, not in a dramatic way. Just that quiet tremor you get when you're trying very hard not to say something you can't take back. Ella swallowed. Dad, I thought my friends were coming. They are, Mom said quickly, waving toward the tables. They can just sit anywhere. Ella looked down at the gift bag in her hands. It was a little bag of party favors she made herself, tiny chocolate coins and handwritten notes. She'd spent the night before folding the notes because she wanted each one to be personal. She stood there in the doorway with her favors, staring at a diaper cake. Then my mother said the sentence I will never forget. She leaned in close enough that I could smell her perfume and whispered, loud enough for Ella to hear anyway. Your sister's baby is more important. Ella's eyes filled instantly. She didn't make a scene. She didn't shout. She just turned her face away like she could hide the tears by refusing to look at us. And then she walked out to the hallway and sat on a bench like a kid waiting outside the principal's office. I followed her and knelt in front of her. Hey, look at me. She tried to smile and failed. Her lip started trembling. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear I didn't know they were going to do this. I know, I said. She pressed the heel of her hand into her eye like she was trying to push the tears back in. I feel stupid. You're not stupid, I said steady. They're wrong. She shook her head fast. Dad, please don't fight. Please. That was the part that made it worse. My daughter was crying, quietly, politely, while begging me not to make anyone uncomfortable. Because that's what my family trained us to do. Be small. Be grateful. Don't ruin things. I sat on the bench beside her. My throat felt tight. I could hear laughter inside the room. The clink of glasses, my mom acting like nothing had happened. Ella wiped her cheeks, tried to breathe, and then the tears came again. She covered her face with both hands. She cried for hours. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just broken. And I didn't scream. I didn't storm into the room. I didn't grab my mother by the arm. I did something else. I took out my phone, walked away down the corridor where nobody could hear Ella, and I made one call. My name is Liam. I was 44 at the time. I managed a restaurant on the east side. Nothing fancy, but a place people loved. I handled schedules, vendors, payroll, catering, the whole daily grind. I was the guy who fixed problems before they became scenes. I'd been divorced for years. Ella was my only kid. Quiet, sharp, the kind of person who remembered your favorite candy without you ever mentioning it twice. She worked part-time and took community college classes, trying to transfer to a university without drowning in debt. We didn't have much extra money, but we had peace. Or we did, until my family needed something. My mom had a way of making her needs sound like the needs of the entire bloodline. The family could really use help right now. We're all pitching in. You don't want your sister to struggle, do you? Kendra was my little sister, the golden child. Whatever she wanted became a family priority. Whatever Ella needed became later. I'd been paying for later my whole adult life. It started small, like it always does. A loan for my mom's property taxes. $1,100. She said she'd pay it back when she got her refund. She never did. A temporary help with my dad's truck payment after he retired early. For $120 a month that somehow lasted almost 2 years. Just for now, grocery card for Kendra when her second kid was born and she couldn't work. $200 here, $150 there, always with a crying emoji and the words, "You're the only one I can rely on." And the worst part? They weren't grateful. They were entitled. Like my job wasn't my job. Like my money wasn't my money. It was just Liam's there. When I got promoted to general manager at the restaurant, Mom called me the next day, not to congratulate me, to ask if I could pay for a family trip to a lake cabin because it would be good for the kids. The kids meant Kendra's kids. Ella wasn't even invited until I asked. And then she spent most of that weekend sitting alone on the dock while Kendra's kids screamed in the water, and my mother kept taking photos of all my grandbabies, like Ella was furniture. I watched my daughter smile through it. I told myself she didn't mind, but I started noticing the pattern. Ella's birthday dinners forgotten, until my mom remembered she was busy. Ella's graduation party pushed back because Kendra had a rough week. Ella's name missing from group texts that included literally everyone else. The slights were always small enough to deny, always soft enough to blame on stress, always timed so I'd look dramatic if I called it what it was. And still, I kept showing up. Still, I kept paying. Because I wanted Ella to have family, even if my family treated her like an accessory. Then Mom suggested we do something special for Ella's 21st. A real party. A venue. Food. Music. Photos. And I believed her. I should have known better, but I believed her. I put down the deposit myself. $2,500 on my card. I told the venue owner I wanted it nice, clean, warm. Not childish. Not tacky. A real milestone. I chose the date. My mother nodded along through the whole thing like she was proud. But now I stood in that hallway while my daughter cried, and I realized the truth. This wasn't a mistake. This was a takeover. A transfer of attention. And it happened so easily because I was the one who paid for the room in the first place. The venue owner's name was Ron. He used to be my boss years ago, back when I was just a line cook trying to work my way up. He was tough, but fair. The kind of guy who cared about people, even when he acted like he didn't. When he answered, he sounded busy. "Liam." "Hey, Ron," I said. My voice came out calm. That surprised me. "I need a favor." There was a pause. I heard papers shuffle. He exhaled. "Your mother just called asking to confirm. I was literally about to call you back. What do you want me to do?" I leaned against the wall, staring at the beige carpet like it might keep me from shaking. In the background, I could still hear my daughter's muffled crying. I smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile you get when something finally clicks into place. I said, "I want you to honor the contract. The one under my name. The one I paid for." Ron didn't answer right away, so I kept going calmly. "Clearly, I booked that room for my daughter's birthday. I paid the deposit. I signed the paperwork." Ron's voice went flat in that professional way. "Yeah, that's what I have. Your name. Your card." "Good," I said. "Then here's what I need." I took a breath, and I made one decision. One clean financial move, and I stuck to it. "Remove my mother as an authorized contact," I said. "Lock the booking so no one can update it but me. And if she tries to switch it again, don't negotiate. Don't work it out. Just tell her no." Ron let out a low whistle. "Seriously, I'm not trying to punish anyone," I said, even though I knew it would feel like punishment to them. "I'm protecting my kid." Ron was quiet for a moment, then said, "I can do that." "And Liam?" "Yeah." His voice softened. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize she was doing all this." "I did," I said quietly. "I just didn't want to admit it." Then he added, "Do you want me to switch the room back right now?" I looked toward the hallway bench where Ella sat. Her shoulders were curled inward. She was trying so hard to breathe like she wasn't falling apart. I said yes. "Right now." Ron didn't hesitate. "Done." I heard typing on his end. Then, "Okay. Booking is locked. Only you. If she shows up acting like she owns it, staff will tell her the event is under your name and the schedule is final." My hand stopped shaking. Not because I felt powerful. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt clear. "Thanks," I said. Ron's tone turned sharp in the way I remembered from the kitchen. "Go take care of your kid." "I will," I said. And I meant it. I hung up. Then I walked back down the corridor. When I returned, my mother was in the hallway now, standing over Ella like a teacher trying to force a student to stop crying. "Oh, come on," Mom hissed. "People are going to see you." Ella wiped her face fast. "I'm fine." "No, you're not," I said, stepping between them. Mom looked at me like I'd insulted her by existing. "Liam, don't start." "I'm not starting," I said. "I'm ending something." Mom's eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" "I made sure Ella has her party," I said. "The party I paid for." Mom's smile vanished. "Kendra already invited people." "That sounds like her problem," I said. Mom's voice rose. "You can't just." "I can," I said, still calm. "Because it's under my name. My card. My contract." Kendra appeared at the end of the hall, like she could smell conflict. "What's going on?" Mom snapped. "Your brother is being dramatic." I looked straight at Kendra. "You knew?" Kendra's mouth opened and closed once like she was searching for the right lie. Then she shrugged, and that shrug told me everything. "We need this more," she said. "I'm pregnant. Ella's just having a birthday." Ella flinched like she'd been slapped. Not physically. Worse than that. The casual way my sister dismissed her. Like she was nothing. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult Kendra. I didn't throw her pregnancy in her face. I just said, "I'm done funding things that erase my daughter." Mom scoffed. "Oh, so now you're punishing a baby." I shook my head. "No, I'm refusing to be your backup bank." Mom stepped closer. "Liam, you're going to regret this." I met her eyes. "Maybe, but Ella won't." Then I turned to my daughter. "Hey," I said softly. "Stand up." She looked up at me with red eyes. "Dad, we're not leaving," I said. "We're taking the room." Ella blinked, confused. "What?" I offered her my hand. "This is your party." She hesitated like she didn't trust good news anymore. I squeezed her hand once. "Come on. Let's go see your banner." Inside, my mom and sister's friends were milling around like nothing was wrong. Some of them held wrapped gifts with baby-themed bows. They looked excited. They looked ready for cupcakes and games. And then Ron's event coordinator, a young woman with a headset and a clipboard, stepped forward. "Hi," she said politely but firm. "This room is booked for Ella's 21st birthday." My mother's face turned stiff. "No, it's for Kendra's shower." The coordinator didn't flinch. "The booking is under Liam's name. It is locked. We can't change it." Kendra sputtered, but my mom told. "I'm sorry," the coordinator said. "We can offer an alternate room at a reduced rate if it's available. But this one is not changing." My mother's eyes shot to me. I didn't smirk. I didn't gloat. I just stood beside my daughter. Mom's voice dropped low and furious. "You embarrassed us." I looked at the decorations. Pink, baby games, diaper cake, everything that was supposed to happen on top of Ella's milestone. Then I looked at my mother. And I said, "You embarrassed Ella." The coordinator glanced at Ella and must have seen her face because her tone softened. "We can remove these decorations," she said gently. "We'll do it quickly." Ella whispered, "Is that okay? I don't want trouble." I crouched beside her again. "You are not trouble. You are the reason we're here." The coordinator waved her staff over, and within minutes, the OH baby banner came down. The diaper cake disappeared. The pink runners were pulled away. It was like watching someone peel a lie off the walls. And when the coordinator brought out the box I had dropped off earlier, the one with Ella's name in gold letters, my daughter's mouth fell open. "Happy 21st, Ella." Ella covered her mouth with her hand. A tear slipped down her cheek again, but this time it wasn't the same kind of tear. This one looked like relief. She whispered, "You really did it." I nodded. "I did. That should have been the end. But with my family, the moment you stop paying is the moment they finally pay attention." The first text hit my phone before Ella even cut the cake. "Mom, you ruined your sister's day. Call me now." Then Kendra. "Kendra, I can't believe you do this to me while I'm pregnant. Everyone's looking at me." Then my aunt. "Aunt Deb, your mom says you're being cruel. What's going on?" I put my phone face down. I didn't respond, because I knew what was coming next. The part where they tried to make me feel like a monster for finally choosing my kid. After the party, after Ella's friends sang to her, and she laughed for the first time that day, we went home. Ella took her heels off by the door and walked straight to the couch like her body finally remembered it was exhausted. She stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then she said, very quietly, "I didn't think you'd pick me." That sentence hit me like a punch. "What?" I asked, even though I heard her. She swallowed. "I mean, you always try to keep the peace. With Grandma." With Kendra. I sat down beside her. I thought I was protecting you. She turned her head to look at me. Her eyes were still puffy. It didn't feel like protection. It felt like I had to earn my place. I closed my eyes for a second. Because she was right. And because I hated that my daughter learned that lesson in my family. I said, "You don't have to earn anything with me. You're my kid. That's it." Ella nodded slowly. Then she leaned her head on my shoulder like she did when she was little. "Thank you," she whispered. I sat there with my arm around her, and I knew something with my mother had changed permanently. Not because I wanted drama. Because I finally stopped participating in the pattern. The next morning, I did the part that would actually stick. Not yelling. Not speeches. Just action. For years, I'd been sending my mom money automatically. Nothing crazy on paper. $300 a week. But that's $1,200 a month. That's groceries. That's rent help. That's my daughter's textbooks. That's a car repair without panic. My mom called it helping with bills. But it wasn't bills. It was entitlement. And it came with a price, silence. So I sat at my kitchen table with my coffee, opened my banking app, and turned off the recurring transfer. The screen asked, "Are you sure you want to cancel this payment?" My finger hovered for a second. Not because I doubted the decision. Because I knew what canceling it meant. It meant my mother would finally show her real face. I tapped confirm. A message popped up, recurring transfer canceled. One clean move. One clear boundary. And then I took a screenshot. Because with my family, you document everything. By noon, my phone was a mess. Mom called 8 times. Kendra called 3. My dad, who almost never called me, called once, and left a voicemail that started with a sigh, like I was the problem. "Liam," he said, "your mother is very upset. You need to fix this. Family doesn't work like this." I didn't call back. Because family also doesn't tell a young woman her birthday doesn't matter compared to someone else's baby. But my family did. So my definition of family had to change. 2 days later, Mom showed up at my apartment without warning. She didn't knock politely. She knocked like she owned the door. I opened it, chain still on. She stood there with her purse clutched tight, lips pressed thin. Behind her, Kendra sat in the car, watching like this was a show. Mom didn't ask how Ella was. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She went straight to the money. "Why didn't the transfer come through?" she demanded. I stared at her. "Because I canceled it." Mom's eyes widened like I'd admitted to a crime. "You can't do that," she said. I nodded once. "I can." Her voice sharpened. "So you're punishing me because of one misunderstanding?" I kept my tone flat. "It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a decision you made. And I'm making mine." Mom's nostrils flared. "We needed that." I said, "You didn't need my money. You wanted it. And you wanted it without respecting my daughter." She scoffed. "Oh, don't be dramatic. Ella is grown." "Exactly," I said. "And you still treated her like she was optional." Mom leaned forward, trying to push the chain with her presence. "Kendra is having a baby. Do you know how expensive that is?" I nodded. "Then you should help her." Mom's mouth opened in disbelief. "I am helping her." "With my money," I said. Her face twisted. "You're selfish." I didn't react. I didn't argue. I just said the sentence I'd been practicing in my head since the venue. "I'm not your backup bank." Mom's eyes went hard. "So that's it. You're cutting off your own mother." I looked at her. Really looked. And all I could think about was Ella sitting on that hallway bench, crying quietly so no one would accuse her of being difficult. I said, "I'm cutting off the funding. Not you. You're still free to be a mother and grandmother who shows up with love." Mom laughed, one short, bitter laugh. "Love doesn't pay bills, Liam." I nodded. "Exactly. That's why you should have been careful with how you treated the person who was paying yours." She stared at me like she wanted me to back down. I didn't. Finally, she turned sharply and walked back toward her car. And before she got in, she looked over her shoulder and said, "Ella is turning you against us." I felt something in me go cold. I said, "No, you did that." Then I closed the door, locked it, and I didn't reopen it. The fallout was loud in the way my family always was when they didn't get their way. They didn't apologize. They escalated. Kendra posted vague quotes online about toxic people and protecting your peace, as if she hadn't tried to hijack her niece's birthday. My mom told relatives I was being controlled by my daughter, which was almost funny, except it wasn't. Because that's what they always did when someone stood up. They turned it into a story where they were victims. Still, I didn't argue with them. I didn't defend myself in group chats. I didn't do long explanations. I just repeated one sentence anytime someone tried to guilt me. I won't fund a family my daughter isn't part of. Some people got quiet after that. Some people got angry. And a few, quietly, privately, started to understand. My cousin Nate texted me late one night. Nate, I heard what happened. I'm sorry. Ella didn't deserve that. Then, a week later, my Aunt Deb called again, softer this time. I didn't know it was like that, she admitted. Your mom made it sound like you threw a tantrum. I said, I didn't tantrum. I protected my kid. There was a pause. Then she said, good. A month later, I did something I should have done years ago. I threw Ella a second birthday celebration. Not big, not fancy, just real. I talked to my current restaurant owner and asked if I could use the back room after closing on a Sunday. He knew me. He trusted me. He said yes. So I set it up myself. No pastel banners. No baby games. Just warm lights, Ella's favorite chocolate cake, and a small table near the window where she could see the street. I invited the people who actually cared. Her two best friends. My cousin Nate. One of my servers who Ella adored because she always remembered her coffee order. That was it. When Ella walked in and saw the little banner I made, just paper letters that said, Ella, 21, she stopped. She stared at it like it wasn't real. Then she smiled. A real smile. She turned to me and said, this feels like me. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Good. Because it's yours. We ate. We laughed. Nobody competed for attention. Nobody made comments. Nobody treated Ella like she was lucky to be included. At one point, Ella handed me a small envelope. Inside was a note in her neat handwriting. Dad, thank you for choosing me out loud. I folded it carefully and put it in my wallet. Not because I needed proof. Because I needed a reminder. My mother didn't come. She wasn't invited. Neither was Kendra. Not to punish them. Just because I finally understood something simple. If someone can't treat my child with basic respect, they don't get access to my money, my time, or my peace. That's not revenge. That's protection. Later, while we were locking up, Ella paused by the window and asked, do you think Grandma will ever change? I didn't lie. I don't know. She nodded, then said, I'm okay. And I believed her, because she wasn't shrinking anymore. She was standing in a room where she was wanted. When we got home, I set two old folding chairs in the corner, not as an invitation, but as a reminder of what empty space looks like when you stop filling it with people who don't show up. Ella glanced at them. I said, those are for anyone who wants to be family the right way. She smiled, kicked off her shoes, and curled up on the couch with leftover cake. Quiet. Simple. Ours. Liam's story destroys me because his mother didn't just cancel Ella's party. She looked at a crying 21-year-old and said, your sister's baby is more important. Then expected Liam to keep sending $1,200 a month like nothing happened. What really happened? This wasn't a scheduling conflict. This was a hierarchy his mother had enforced for years. Kendra's needs were always more important than Ella's existence. Liam had been funding this system at $300 per week. That's $14,400 a year going to a mother who told his daughter she was optional. The cruelty wasn't just the takeover. It was watching Ella sit on a hallway bench, crying quietly, begging her dad, please don't fight, because she'd been trained to make herself smaller for everyone's comfort. The detail that breaks me. Ella whispered, I didn't think you'd pick me. That sentence shows how deep the damage went. His own daughter didn't believe she was worth defending because every time there was a choice, his family chose Kendra and Liam chose keeping the peace. The real lesson. When someone tells you your child is less important, the correct response isn't negotiation. It's a canceled autopay. Liam didn't scream. He didn't make threats. He made one phone call to Ron, locked the booking in his name, then calmly stopped funding the people who excluded his daughter. That's not revenge. That's basic respect for the person you raised. Question for you. When your family tells your child she doesn't matter, then asks for money that same week, what's the appropriate response? And how many years do you fund people who treat your daughter like furniture before you realize you're not keeping the peace? You're paying for her erasure. Share your stories. Because being family shouldn't mean your kid sits crying in a hallway while everyone celebrates someone else.